And welcome, everyone. I'm Kate Shea, Senior Editor and Manager of Digital Content at Event Marketer. And we are here for another fantastic LinkedIn Live discussion as part of our Experiential Marketing Month program, which has been taking place online and in person for covering a range of topics this month. For today's discussion, I'm lucky enough to have a panel of experts with me to talk about all things B2B events and trade shows. So I'd like to welcome Aleka Garcia, Senior Manager of Commercial Strategy Event Experience at Johnson & Johnson Vision, Stacey, Gromlich, Audience Engagement and Global Events Digital Industry Software at Siemens, and Sylvia Lopez-Navarro, National Manager of Brand Experience, Corporate Events and Auto Shows at Kia. So welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining me.
Good morning.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Happy to have you. So let's get the party started. I thought we would kind of start off by looking at storytelling in trade show environments today, which seem to be very critical at this point. So how can brands use storytelling to sort of humanize their message and connect on a more emotional level with our audiences? Aleka, I know this was something after your heart.
It is. Storytelling for us isn't just a nice to have, it's really in the environment, it's a must to have. The trade shows for us are such a high impact marketing channel, and storytelling is so powerful in the tool to humanize your brand. It sparks that emotional connection and it helps you stand out in that crowded exhibit hall. And for us in the healthcare professional space, you have to break through that noise, and that requires more than just a product feature. It demands a narrative that resonates. And I feel, especially when attendees feel seen and understood and inspired, they're far more likely to engage and remember your brand and take meaningful steps. I know a lot of us have heard the story that you want to align your values and address the real world needs, but you really need to connect with your audience on that emotional, in that heart, and that logical mind level so that you can blend your messages with your strategic execution. So I found that when you create those resonant experiences, whether it's patient stories, purpose-driven missions, or immersive booth elements, you clearly are communicating the practical benefits of the solutions, and you're hitting that audience at the heart and their mind to really get that value across to them.
Anyone else, does that resonate with you?
I can jump in, Kate. I would say, just for starters, there's something that there's this really great quote, and it goes something like this: that after nourishment, shelter, and companionship, stories are the thing that we need most in this world. And I've kind of taken that in kind of my journey in marketing, and especially in automotive, right? Because at the end of the day, we know that what we're highlighting and working to sell are vehicles. But at the same token, when we are competing for space, right, whether it be at an auto show, at Electrify Expo, at some sort of consumer event, one of the things that we have to really hone in and really focus on is the power of storytelling. And that can be captured whether we do a sensory journey, whether it's bringing engagements or activations that help tell our story in terms of our investments. One of those at Kia is the NBA. Formerly was the LPGA. And so we've had a lot of our sports marketing activations, or even through like our digital channels, that our consumers will gravitate to. And so we use a lot of our platforms and a lot of our activations to really amplify and make the connection on the show floor with our consumers. So there is something to be said about the power of storytelling. And it should be in a way where consumers walk onto the show floor. It's organic, it feels genuine, and they can resonate and really align with your brand.
I concur with the other women. I think the difference for everything they said is exactly the way we feel as well. They have much more consumer facing brands than Siemens is. And I think when coming to humanizing the technology that we provide, we do a lot of that humanizing through our customers and our customer stories, because they are truly making the things day in and day out that we utilize in the world that we live in, inclusive of healthcare, automotive, mobility. So for us, we have to take a little bit extra step when we humanize to make sure that people can actually see in their day-to-day the things that they're interacting with, and then how we are enabling all of our customers to go out and make the products that we live with day in and day out. And a lot of people, because they don't know who Siemens is, especially here in the US, globally, I mean, in Europe, everybody knows who Siemens is. We have to take the approach of, where are we going? What is the audience at that particular event? And what does humanizing the story mean to that particular audience. And sometimes it's not the same story from show to show to show, but we have to dive into that story from a different angle to make sure that it is cutting through the clutter and really resonating with the audience that is in front of you in that moment.
100% Stacey. Storytelling really is that bridge between the brand and your audience. And for us, it transforms that booth from a display into a destination and that product pitch into a shared purpose. It really is really powerful in the space.
Speaking of powerful, I feel like it's hard not to talk about AI in events these days, right? So whether it's being customer facing or, in an internal capacity. So how are your teams leveraging AI technology, whether it's in your booths or kind of behind the scenes?
I'm happy to take that one first. I am lucky enough to have a really smart bunch of people on my team who have embraced AI to its fullest, to the point where we're almost backing our folks down a little bit and saying we can't use it for everything quite yet. But the way we are using it internally is really to do a lot of analytics. We get so much data from the programs that we do, that in our proprietary Siemens model, not just out there in ChatGPT in general or some of the other modalities, but really using it to gather and garner our analytics from show to show to show and start to be able to give us back the data of that we were never able to analyze before because there's just so much of it. But now we can compare program to program, persona to persona, and we can do that in a matter of minutes versus hours of culling through sheets. The way we are gathering and capturing information from our attendees, whether they're proprietary events or trade show spaces, where again, we have to be careful when we have a global audience of making sure that we're sticking within all the parameters of security and making sure we're keeping people's, all of the data proprietary to us and not sharing that data in any way, but really getting a better understanding of who the person is that is actually coming or those personas. We've used quite a bit of AI to dig into that and make sure that what Siemens thinks is our persona is truly the person who's showing up, and that we're giving them truly what they want, not just what we think they want. And then, of course, we're using it on the back end for a lot of our systems work. And Siemens in general, we are harnessing AI from an industrial perspective. So the company as a whole is really looking at the data we capture from manufacturing facilities and looking at how those folks can go into their manufacturing facilities and in a matter of moments take all of the data across what they're doing and be able to analyze it in a matter of minutes versus days and days to be able to make changes to all of their facilities. So from what the company is doing as a whole to what we are then embracing and where and how we're using that in our events, it's really starting to proliferate the entirety of the organization right now for the better.
And I'll
Similar.
piggyback. Oh, go ahead, Aleka.
No, go ahead, Sylvia.
I was gonna say, I definitely want to piggyback, right? As industry experts, there's a couple things that we look in. So it's a great question. And I look at it in terms of the different phases, right? Everyone's talking about AI, kind of that driven hyper personalization, the attendee data to really drive that immersive technology aspect of what we do. There is something really powerful to be said about the physical and the digital coming together, right? Because I think you still need both. I understand the importance of it, but at the same token, there's something to be said about the physical space. A great example of that is our award-winning CES home that we built in partnership with our exhibit house, EWI. It encompassed so many elements of what you're talking about with kind of the immersive technology aspect of it. But there was also an element of kind of that experiential, that very formatted evolution, which really brought in that sensory storytelling power, right? So everything along the home, yes, people were there to experience our brand and learn about our new models. But at the same token, it was done in a very clever way where you walked into this award-winning multi-million-dollar, that's how it felt, right? It felt very immersive. And you're like, wow, this really feels something you would walk into Architectural Digest, because we wanted the consumer to view our brand in that landscape. And so while there was a lot of technology built around it with the different ways of experiencing the different consumer engagements along the way, we also looked at it in the context of value and responsibility, right? And kind of that digital first, digital collateral, being very mindful and aware of, what the consumer wants to walk away. In this case, it was CES, so we had to be even extra diligent about what we were delivering. And that's where a lot of the, VR, AR comes into play with our turntable, multifaceted type of experience. But even in how we deliver our collateral, right? A lot of it was digital and some of it was contained via an app. So there's a lot of elements to be considered, I think, for events. Like I said, the one thing is we embrace technology. We're going to continue to make investments as a brand. But at the same token, I strongly feel, and I believe my peers will probably feel the same, that you cannot walk away from the physical.
100% agree. I think that's also why we're so passionate about what we do, right? Is the balance of in person and digital. When it comes to AI, I think like most of my colleagues here and a lot of the large organizations, we've been very thoughtful and strategic about the way that we've integrated it in our event operations. And we want to make sure that we're aligned with our broader corporate initiatives. So we are still in the early stages of adoption within the trade show space, but similar to Stacey, the efficiency of data collection, synthesizing, reporting, trending, identifying trends is so fascinating that I'm freeing up a lot of my staff to look at more advancements and innovation. So I'm very excited about dipping my toe and embracing the AI. Been in the industry for a while. I like to think I'm an innovator, but learning how to use it in the right way and the right place to deliver the right message, I think is key to be successful in the implementation.
Absolutely. And that kind of leads to my next question, which is how are you keeping up with the pace of change that AI and some of these other technologies are creating? Are you structuring teams differently? Are you managing logistics differently? How are you keeping up as it progresses? Any thought?
I feel like that's a double-edged question. I don't think that when we prep in our prep that we got into this, but I'll just speak for myself. Time is so precious, right? I've been on the road for 2 weeks. I'm heading out again the end of this week. So I would say for me, it's been a slow evolution of identifying what we're going to integrate and then really truly making it a cross collaboration. As I said in the beginning, it shows our a marketing channel. So it's so key for me to engage my marketing partners. We're in the healthcare space, so I also want to engage our R&D, our SMEs, our professional education. I haven't adjusted structures or ways of working. It's more of incorporating it to what we deem a recipe for success and then keeping an eye on making sure that we evolve it so that we're not left behind.
Yeah, and I have nothing to add there. Same. Trying to embrace it where we can. Too haven't structurally made changes. It's just making us more efficient. And as it makes us more efficient, we can then look holistically at the overall marketing strategy, where events fit into that, where those experiential engagements are key, and then where and how we fit technology into that as it's appropriate. But I feel the same as Aleka.
Yes. And on my end, I would say certainly when it comes to kind of the integration of it, right? I very much like Alika, it's kind of a evolution. It's a slower process to some degree. And that's really because we don't want to do anything that's forced, right? Where the consumer's going to come on the show floor or to one of your events and be like, it's very disingenuous or it feels forced. So anytime, and that's what I challenge my team with here, day in and day out, it's like making sure we walk through the customer journey, right? We're so close to it and we live with it every single day, but how is the actual consumer going to feel? What do we want them to take away? And so I think there's still that balance of how much is too much or not enough. And so one of the solves for us on our end is all the new emergent technology with EVs, PHEVs, NHEVs. And for the consumer, sometimes unless they're really keen and really know the tech, it may be a lot. So that's an area or a time where I would say, okay, we need another type of technology, whether it be AR or VR to some degree, to help explain it in a very organic way to our consumer. And that's when we would try to introduce it. But again, having that sense of balance and making sure that it's, I would say, premium, but also very intentional for the end user.
Excellent. And so I thought we would also cover everyone's favorite topic in this industry, which is measurement and ROI. So, at the moment, what are the metrics that you're currently prioritizing? What are your top KPIs at this point in time? Anybody have thoughts? Is this going to become a therapy session? Maybe? I don't know.
It actually is very near and dear to my heart. And I was at the event marketer summit earlier this year, and I did a talk on it. But lead gen is a key driver for evaluating trade show success. I mean, I don't think we're really going to get away from it, but it's not focused on the volume alone. It's the quality, it's the engagement, it's the downstream impact. So I know you have a follow-up question to this. I'm probably going to lean into that a little bit, but it's really like, how do you engage? And I've always of the mindset, if you measure it, you treasure it. So how many people came through your booth? But what was that engagement? Did you have outside the booth experiences? It's more of a return on engagement in terms of the overall experience. There's marketing qualified leads and sales leads, but it's having that big picture because events are multifaceted, right? And people in our space, it's healthcare, ODs, MDs, they come for their CEs, they come to meet with their colleagues. So we break through that noise and then we have the different myriads of ways that we engage with them. So it's a wheel of engagement, and then we have to qualify it against what was our marketing goal, what's our business goal. And I mean, that's really in itself a full-time job, but it is something that we're continuously looking at in the way that we show up and the way that we engage so that we can report back to our financial partners and then report back to our commercial partners as well.
Agree. On our end, measurement is very important, especially I would say it's a mechanism for many of the approvals, right, for investment. So we need to make sure that what we're doing is actually working. And more importantly, that consumers are responding to it. So on our end, one of the things that's extremely critical is how we measure our leads, right? And so very much like Aleka, we really focus on quality over quantity. And we have to be very careful in the sense that, yes, we are capturing leads, whether it be registrants, hand raisers, or leads, which will ultimately be turned over to our dealers. And that we want to make sure that what we're turning over for customer contact or for a future test drive, that is actually quality, right? So we have to be very, very careful, especially because our network is so wide and deep that we cover 5 regions, that what we provide to them is of great value to them. And so at the end of the day, as we look at this journey, we're also looking ultimately at the end of the day at sales conversion. So it is very important, but definitely a huge driver in our investments and essentially to one degree, like what goes and what stays, right? When it comes to events, unfortunately, attendance is no longer a criteria because we know that can be inflated to some degree, or maybe it's not the numbers, but who's to say that that's a great event based on attendance, right? So we're really honing and focused on quality.
We take. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Aleka.
No, go ahead. No, I was just going to say, to cap it is like a full funnel view from the booth engagement to business outcomes, right? Supporting that pipeline, the sales data, and then understanding our long-term impact of event investments. Because like Sylvia says, it's not about how many attended, it's about who attended and what did that deliver to.
Yeah, for us, it's looking at a holistic brand to demand strategy and sales acceleration strategy, and really outlining from the very beginning of the year what are our overall business goals and where are we going and what's going to get us to those business goals. And then ensuring same that the engagement strategy is really, really defined. If we are going to an event where leads and or sales acceleration is critical, we're measuring things a bit differently than we are if we're going to a thought leadership or more brand specific type of event. So we really look at our metrics horizontally. And then when we're looking at each of our event types and or the overall business strategy, then we're looking at the events and then we're tying a more vertical approach to those metrics to figure out what those outcomes are that are success for the overall company. And frankly, we're successful when either our audience says we're successful or they say they are getting something out of it, right? We're not just successful, like they said, because we had X amount of people. When we're measuring engagement, we are measuring what does someone know about the company? What did they learn? And what will they go do with that information? What, are we activating them to go do? Is it buy a product if it's something more tactical? Is it tell a colleague that they understand what we do? And are they recommending that somebody utilize us in a particular way or buy a particular product or evaluate the company for, so it really, really for us depends. We've got that core baseline, but we really take it back to the overall business strategy and ensure that we've got the right set or grouping of metrics to prove success throughout our entire event life cycle.
And some of you have mentioned this, but As far as going beyond hard numbers, are there some other softer metrics that your teams look at as well?
We look at an overall engagement score, and that engagement score is I'm talking about CES specifically, right? Where you're in a C, and again, you're trying to get people to understand that Siemens isn't just a technology company, but we are a technology player up there with the likes of our partners, the AWSs, the Microsofts of the world, that truly we play in that space. While we don't provide the same products that they provide, we do play in that innovative space. So at CES for us, it's really an engagement score. Do you understand who we are? Do you see us as a technology player? And as someone who is an innovator in technology, do you understand what that means to you? And then, dependent upon who they say they are when they come into the booth and whether they had a relationship with us or they don't, we then take our surveying and take our metric strategy from that point forward. So it's really, have we moved the needle with what they knew when they came in to what they know when they leave, and how they would refer to us moving forward from a brand perspective?
Yeah, Kate, for us, I would certainly say, in addition to the hard numbers, one of the things that is definitely gold is the voice of the consumer, right? We take so much interest and time to read just general commentary and feedback because typically for most of our events, we do a pre and a post survey. And it's really interesting, right? What they share when they first experience the brand to the after event experience. And so we do look at the pre and the post survey commentary feedback, not only in terms of what they report back in terms of their brand experience, but also even the feedback they have with respect to our vehicles. And one of the things that we do hear very often is, Kia, I had no idea. And that typically happens after a test drive, right? So again, the power of experiential. So kind of going through the verbatims and the feedback is really important. And in most, I would say, actually, in all of our recaps back to our leadership team, we make sure that we include the good, bad, and the ugly, right? In terms of what it is, we share it out, especially when we're launching a vehicle and it was under the stars and the lights and people were super excited. But we want to hear what is the true feedback from the consumer. Now, they may not come out and say it, but in terms of the results that they share, a digital, I would say, survey, the feedback is phenomenal, right? They're very comfortable in telling you what they think and how they feel. I would say there's definitely value in the consumer feedback.
Similar to my colleagues, right? Strengthening brand equity, the raise awareness, the meaningful relationships. All these softer metrics help us understand the emotional and strategic impact of our presence, how we're showing up, how we're being perceived, how well we're building trust and relevance in the market. We do, similar to my colleagues, take that back, the good, the bad, the ugly, and then just evolve for the audience, for the need, but very similar in all that. I think we're all doing a pretty good job of correlating all of that data. And similar to Stacey, I'm using AI to bring up those trends and not spend days combing through all that data.
Excellent. Well, somehow this has flown by, so I'm going to throw one final question at each of you. So, give us one prediction on the future of B2B events or trade shows. Who's my first victim?
I can jump in. I would say probably the unbundling of mega events. So one of the things that I predict will probably happen is that companies will be prioritizing, again, quality over quantity, and maybe really trending towards very specific, very curated events that are really more focused on what I would call micro events with VIP workshops, maybe road shows, roundtables, and even those events that were once, a couple hundred thousands of people will probably be a little bit smaller in scope. And that's, again, to feel very intentional and to make sure that the message or what they're looking to communicate that day, that it's very effective. And so I would say for me, it would have to probably be the unbundling of the once big mega events that we're used to seeing today.
I 100% agree. It's all about the personalization. It is meeting that customer on their journey, giving them the message that they're looking for. These large mega events, as Sylvia is saying, they once were a way, I'll be honest, and I should choose my words lightly since we are being recorded. I thought they wouldn't return after COVID, but we did. We kind of went back, and now it's time to kind of right size that ship to have those meaningful conversations, to personalize. And then also, you think about the generations that are in the market. We can't have big megas. We got to hit the targets where they are. Otherwise, we won't continue to be successful and we won't continue to play in the space.
I think with because of AI, things are going to become ultra personalized. Like if we think they're personalized now, I see that being taken to an entirely new level. And I am interested to see where the human to human action and reaction modifies because of that. My prediction is that the human to human element will remain critically important, whether we have massive events or we have micro events. The human to human piece is going to continue to grow, but it's going to have to be on a micro personalized level versus a macro personalization level of thinking we know big groups of people. We're going to have to know down to the person. You walk into our booth, whether it's at a big event or a small event, we better know who you are, where you're coming from, what you're doing, what you need when you're there before you even so much as say hi, name is.
And those are things we've been hearing across Experiential Marketing Month. So that's certainly a huge trend to be watching for. And so that wraps things up. Thank you all so much for joining us. This was a great panel. And thank all of you for watching. So tune in next week. We will be back October 27th with your next live discussion.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Everybody, thanks.